Hi ladies, it's Nursev Morris here. I'm sure most of you know me. I hope you're having a lovely time at the conference. I want to share my testimony with you of how I became a Christian. I am Turkish Cypriot, so my family are Muslim, generally, and they're not the type of Muslims that are very devout. I call them part-time Muslims because they don't do all the fasting, but they'll go to the celebrations afterwards. You know the type I mean. Although they're not devout Muslims, I was taught very young how to pray to Allah. My grandma had taught me some Islamic prayers in Arabic, and I'd learned earlier on to pray for them for safety and other things, to pray these repetitive Arabic prayers. But I noticed that when I prayed those prayers that nothing would happen. And so earlier on, one of my family members had become involved in Christianity and was learning about Christ and had had an experience with Christ and started to teach me about Jesus. And so I'd learnt, they'd read the Bible to me, so I'd learnt a few scriptures and learnt how to pray to Jesus. And so I thought I would try this Jesus out. I thought, well, and I prayed, if you're real, Jesus, show yourself to me, come into the room right now and reveal yourself. And then I would feel a presence come, and then I'd get scared and say, oh, no, I can't handle that. And I'd done that a few times. Very funny now thinking back over it. But the presence of God did start to come into the room, and I'd say, no, I can't handle it. But I'd pray for things, I'd pray to Jesus, and I'd receive them. And so I knew that there was a difference already, because when I'd prayed the prayers to Allah, I'd not received a response. But when I prayed to Jesus, I'd always received a response. And so later on, as I started to enter into my teenage years, I started to go through some difficult times. I was a singer. I'd started off as a singer in the theatre. I was a rock singer first in a rock band, and then started off singing in the theatre, and then had got involved in R&B, and I had met some producers and was getting far along that route. I was about to sign a contract and do a showcase in Miami, and working with producers who had been working with the Wu-Tang Clan and other famous artists at the time. Although that life was, exciting, I was searching in myself. I didn't know who I was, what my purpose was. And I remember thinking about, I don't know if you've ever seen The Truman Show, but thinking about things going on around me, and I was in this bubble, and I was just very confused about life and what was going on, and as I said, who I was and what my purpose was. I'd got to a point where things were happening in my family, and it had left me very low, and I had attempted suicide one day. I took an overdose of paracetamol, and thank God I woke up the next day. But I was sad to wake up the next day, and a bit relieved, but sad that I hadn't died, because things were just so bad in my life and how I was feeling at the time. And I remember I was searching, and one day I was by myself in my bedroom, and I was crying and rocking back and forth, and this time I didn't ask Jesus to prove himself to me or to come into the room. I just asked him, Jesus, help me. And I was just rocking back and forth and saying, help me, Jesus, help me, Jesus. And that day I felt a light come into the room, and all the hurt and pain that I was feeling lifted. And I knew that he was real. I knew that a change had taken place, and I knew that I couldn't deny that he was real. And after that, I started searching for a church to go to. And I had a friend at school called Anton, who I knew was a Christian. I was very horrible to him at school. because he used to follow me around everywhere and annoy me. So I wasn't very kind to him at all. So I managed to get his number. I called him and I asked him to forgive me. And I said sorry for being cruel to him. He forgave me straight away, thank God. And I spoke to him about the experience that I'd had and said I was looking for a church. And he took me to a few churches and they just weren't right. But he said to me, Nursev, just pray, because there are a lot of churches out there which are not true and they're not actually living for Christ. So pray and ask God to guide you to the right church. And so I prayed. And then one day I was at college and this girl came up to me and she had bright eyes and she was very excited looking at me. Excuse me. And she said, I heard you can sing. And I knew there was something special about her. I knew she was going to tell me she was a gospel singer. And I said, yes, I can sing. And she said, yes, so can I. I'm a gospel singer. And I knew. And we went downstairs in the college to a music room and we just started singing to each other. So I sang first and I thought I was all that. And I moved my head and I, sang my R&B song. And then she sang and I felt completely inadequate. But I knew there was something special about her. And she had told me that she was a pastor's daughter and she invited me to her church. So there was a testimony service going on that she had invited me to, and I went there and I heard testimonies of how people had been delivered from drugs, and other people had gone on a trip to India, and there'd been amazing things that had happened there. And then there was the presence of God fell and everybody started speaking in tongues, in a different language. And my friend was saying to me, are you okay with this? But somehow I felt peace. I felt like it was all right. Even though it was strange to me what was happening around me, there was a peace about it. And I knew that I was meant to be with these people at this church. And from then I started to attend church. It wasn't easy. My dad had sometimes, come down the road to drag me back, say, where do you think you're going? And I had to tell him one day that I was, I'm going to church. I've had this experience. I've become a Christian. And one day he dragged me into the car, drove off to a park, and I thought he's going to kill me because the Quran says that he can kill me because I've deserted my family. I've disappointed my family by becoming a Christian. But he took me to a park. He sat me down and he said, why are you doing this to me, Nursev? And I said, Dad, I'm not doing anything to you. This has just happened to me and I can't deny Christ. He's changed my life. Because as well as being in the music industry, I had also been going out with different guys many were drug addicts. I had a different boyfriend every week. I wasn't a good girl, as they say, and my dad didn't know anything about that. So he just thought I had completely changed and had come against my family, and just I wasn't Turkish anymore, and it had upset him. But over the years, he learned to accept it. He saw the change in my life. I'm now married with 2 lovely children, 2 wonderful boys that God has blessed us with. And my dad now comes, he prays when we're doing bedtime prayers with my son. He's there doing bedtime prayers as well. God has transformed my life and made me into a new person, and my family have seen that, and are now, beginning to get a bit more involved, and God is working in their hearts. And watch this space. I know that they'll be here soon as well. Excuse me. Also, I stopped singing in the world. I thought, if I'm a Christian, I can't really be singing about the type of things I sing about as an R&B singer. So I started on the